Hello, UCR. What's your favorite scary movie?
Hello and welcome to Uncensored Radio's Uncensored Horror. Oh, I forgot. We're wearing our long legs today.
I'll just sit down.
That's right, folks. We are back, and as promised, we're going on a ride. It's going to be a bit of a stop and start kind of ride because how does one explain this? It's interesting. For lack of a better word, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, weirdly pale people everywhere, we are going to discuss today the much awaited and critically hyped and, box office dominating Longlegs. Now, we have all we've been talking about this movie for a while. It feels like this movie's been coming down the pipe for a long time. We've spoken about it on other shows, on other episodes, about the marketing that has kind of just brought this movie to life and given it a life of its own, really. But it's finally here. It was actually released a day early here. I think that they couldn't really hold it back any. Yeah, it was due for release on a Thursday, and it was randomly out on the Wednesday, which doesn't usually happen.
No. Saying that, though, what you said, Steve, this movie, I really kind of learned about it through this. But then I don't watch, free-to-air television and things like that. I had seen ads for it, on YouTube and whatever, but I may not have paid it any mind so much, only that it was kind of hyped up by you guys. So,
I think the majority of the hype was because there was so much unknown about it. Even now, doing a little bit of research for it, the Google searches are very restrictive when it comes to images from the movie, which I think is fantastic for a movie that does rely a little bit on moments. Like, there are some big moments in this film that haven't been spoiled unless you're on TikTok.
So when I was trying to look up facts for the show, everything comes up like the spider Longlegs. So it was hard to find things. And I love that about this, because if you know too much about a movie, it can really take you out of it. And part of the fun of this movie was the vagueness. You didn't know what it was about going into it, really. You didn't see
a little bit like the Blair Witch effect. Like, everyone didn't know what the heck was happening. Yeah.
So if I had to categorize marketing for a horror movie, top 3 in no specific order: Blair Witch, Smile, Longlegs. Top-notch marketing. This is how you do marketing right here. And it really utilized TikTok. If you went on the Neon page, it had a specific playlist for all the trailers. And some of it was repetitive, but it included maybe a little bit more than the last one, just to keep you coming back for the next one. And it was off-putting. Even as someone who watches as much horror as I do, I was really kind of oh, that's kind of unsettling.
And I think that's a part of the conversation we're going to have today, is that it is this new vein of psychological horror that's kind of taking things in a really a deeper, more, I guess for what, Katie, we've had this discussion about, heightened horror and, more elevated horror, more thought-provoking horror. And this is up there, I think. It's kind of redefining where we're at, because we have had so many of these PG-13 Blumhouse kind of moments, The Conjuring, all that. It's another offshoot, I think. It might bring more movie. A movie like this wouldn't have gotten a major studio release, I don't think, if it wasn't for the cast. And
the names attached to it, really.
It has everything. It has the makings of a great cult classic, but this cult classic is now already doing huge things. Like it will be, I think, a benchmark in horror moving forward.
A blockbuster.
I agree.
Yeah, and a surprise one, I think. Like we can never pick how horror is going to do at the box office. You've got your tentpole franchises that people are going to go see because they are franchise movies, but for a one-off, essentially not major studio, like Neon's not a major studio.
No, not major.
But they managed to have some major players though in the film, which is what you just said.
They're doing what A24 did in the beginning. Basically. Yeah, this has the makings of another A24.
Yeah, they're doing interesting stuff, which is refreshing. I think it was, and the marketing's worked because the session that I went to, there were about 35 people there. For a horror movie releasing the night before it was actually meant to be released, and I went at like 9:30 p.m. on a weeknight in the middle of the week, and there were still that many people there. It bodes well, let's just say.
See, when I went and saw it, I saw it the day before it was released in the US, and it was a sold-out showing, completely sold out. And I guess that's pretty normal for horror around here. A lot of people will go see a horror release before it comes out to avoid crowds, is what I'm guessing, or because of the hype.
You don't want to get spoiled. You don't want to get spoilers on a movie like this.
Something like this, yes.
I did the same thing with Deadpool and Wolverine because I knew that as soon as it was a day and been in cinemas a day, it was going to be all over social media. There were more people in my screening of Longlegs than there were in my screening of Daredevil and Wolverine.
That's really surprising, honestly.
Really surprising, considering I went day of release for Wolverine. Yeah. And Deadpool, I was like, oh, okay. Like, and that's cracking box office like history. It's in the billions already. And yeah, this has surprised me. And we're not even talking about the movie yet. So if you haven't seen Longlegs, there is no way to really talk about it without spoiling it. And I've tried to be as ambivalent as I can with some of the stuff that's coming up. So if you don't want your experience spoiled, and I don't think you do, switch off.
You have to go into this kind of blind. Like, knowing the plot's not going to ruin this for you, but knowing any kind of fine details of this is absolutely going to take you out of the experience. You need to go in blind. That's the best way to experience this. Looking back, I wish I could have gone into this with
even less knowledge.
Well, no, with like headphones, because this movie is so atmospheric, so I could really get the sound. Like this is absolutely going to be a purchase for me. I am going to purchase this movie as soon as it's available. I'm going to put my own headphones on. I'm going to sit in pitch black darkness, and I'm going to really absorb this. I'm so excited about this movie.
I feel sorry for Katie's family already.
People feel sorry for my family already.
We already felt sorry for them.
Let's be real. Kyle takes a lot of nonsense from me.
Okay.
I drive.
There is no avoiding it. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you're not going to want to be spoiled, check out now, because we're about to begin the descent into Longlegs. Now, even online, the plot description is very, very brief. The film follows an FBI agent tasked with tracking down an occultist serial killer responsible for murdering multiple families throughout the state of Oregon without having been physically present in the crimes. And that is it. That's all it says. Now, this movie starts...
That description, I guess, leans a lot into why this movie is... I mean, it's even like one of the things on the poster, right? Like, they're comparing it to Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah, definitely. And you get that vibe. I definitely got Silence of the Lambs vibe. I was going to save it for the end, but I think the best way that I can describe this movie is if Silence of the Lambs and Twin Peaks had a baby with Criminal Minds. It's kind of like a merging of all of these things, and
I agree with you. I think Silence
elevating
of the Lambs
all of those things
meets Twin Peaks, meets Seven, meets Think
it
about any
It has that. It has everything you love about a serial killer crime movie, with a horror element and just the weirdness and just bizarreness and off-putting nature that you would have had originally watching something like Twin Peaks. Cast your mind back to the first time you watched Twin Peaks. You're like, what the fuck is going on here?
That was traumatic television for us.
And the more I think about it, the more I really want to compare it more to Seven than Silence of the Lambs, just because I think about how off-putting Kevin Spacey was.
Yeah. I really think they're pushing the Michael Monroe Nick Cage relationship here. I like that's why we're getting Silence of the Lambs,
right? And part of the marketing was her heart rate when she first saw Nick Cage. Like, you see this trailer and they're saying, she didn't see him until this specific scene. This is her actual heart rate going into that room where she's seeing Nick Cage for the first time, and it was elevated. I mean, it was beating really,
she was
strongly.
Dangerously high. Yeah,
she was very nervous.
A fantastic teaser for a character that is, already so revered. The reception that Nick Cage is getting for this performance.
I honestly didn't even know it was him. Let's be honest. Like, I could tell it was him, but I couldn't. Like, he was
makeup was makeuping. Makeup was makeuping.
And his acting was not him. Like, he was in his character.
It wasn't the typical Nick Cage, I'm doing this movie for my bills, because we know that he does. Like, he works a lot and he has a lot of bills to pay, a lot of ex-wives to keep happy, etc.
Listen,
but I feel like there is a difference. There's a definite departure in this performance than some of the other ones that we've seen.
Part of the fun of Nick Cage is you never know what you're going to get. You're going to get unhinged, but you don't know how unhinged.
And it went full throttle this time, I think.
And in the best way possible.
Yeah.
In the best way possible.
Yeah, not a scene chewing full throttle, but a commitment to character full throttle.
And he's actually said after this movie he's never going to play a serial killer again. He was that
too deep.
Yes, he was in too deep pretty much. And I love Nicolas Cage. I think he's honestly one of the most underrated actors out there. I think people don't give him enough credit.
I think this cast is full of amazing actors that don't get enough credit. But we'll talk more about it as we go along. So, because we want to try and give a little bit of sense to people that have watched it and might have gone, huh? Whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So we start in 1970. Even the way that this first section was filmed, like the cropping and all that kind of stuff, it was off-putting. There was when the movie started, my audience were dead silent throughout this movie. I didn't hear anyone talk.
The framing was unsettling because it always felt like there was something just out of frame.
Just the way exactly. Yeah. There's a sense of danger because we find this random little girl noticing a car outside her house in the distance. We can't see who's in the car. She steps out to investigate. When she hears a mysterious voice from behind the house and is approached by who we will discover is Longlegs, and they tease the reveal straight up. It's just like, nah, we're not going to see it.
I jumped.
We're not going to see it.
I knew it was like he's dropping down to reveal his face, and they, boom, Longlegs on the screen. I jumped. Like, I knew it was coming. Like, I knew they weren't going to show his face right off the bat, right in the beginning, but I still jumped. I mean,
exactly.
And just scare like that.
From that first interaction, the pitch and timbre of his voice, you're like, oh, that's not okay. Like, it's not okay.
Yeah, that's just
it's not okay. Like
the best way I can describe his voice, and I know it's just really out there, but if you think of the old man in Family Guy with that voice, just like that,
and Tiny Tim.
Ooh, he is very Tiny Tim.
Tulips. Like, yeah. I was thinking that's who he gave me big Tiny Tim vibes if Tiny Tim was still alive today.
Yes, that's absolutely it. Oh my god, that's beautiful.
So after that smash cut into titles and stuff like that, we move forward to the 1990s. It's refreshing to see something set in the 90s. I was like, is that Bill Clinton?
I was gonna say, and they made sure you knew it was the 90s with a big picture of Bill Clinton.
Big old Bill. Big old Bill.
Sure what year it was. Now you know.
And we meet fledgling FBI agent Lee Harker, Maker Monroe, who has kind of been doing her thing, but not in like big mainstream moments. She was obviously the lead in It Follows, and we'll be back with the It Follows sequel, which is coming after many roots. Speaking of divisive horror. But she can act, baby.
I absolutely agree. I think I've made it no secret I'm not a big fan of It Follows, but her other stuff is still very, very good. She was great in The Guest. The Watcher, I think is what it was called. It was a pretty indie film, and she was great in that. She's great in whatever she does.
She can carry a film by herself.
She can.
And that's I feel like that's very rare these days.
She is the modern scream queen, and she doesn't get enough credit.
She's like a Jodie Foster or Patricia Arquette.
Well, she was giving big Jodie Foster vibes, that kind of monotone, less said the better attitude that we got from Starling at the beginning of Silence of the Lambs. It feels like that. You can't deny it.
Well, even her costuming looks like it.
Yeah.
Even her costuming looks like Jodie Foster. Yeah. Like it's done very purposefully. They want you to feel it.
Yeah.
They want you in that kind of mood, in that environment. So you know what you're getting into.
They flip it straight away by revealing that she has this inexplicable intuition that they're kind of theorizing is some kind of clairvoyance, that she's able to go to a crime scene and analyze it and just have these premonitions, these thoughts, kind of like the old TV show Profiler. Remember Profiler? Medium. I loved that show. I loved Profiler. Such a good show. But we get that revelation. I wasn't expecting this scene either, this first scene to happen so quickly. I thought we would get exposition, and we get straight into it.
Yeah, that did not waste any time from when she's on the scene looking for a separate serial killer.
Yeah,
and watches her partner get blown away.
Yeah.
And she called it too. She said, he's in there.
He's in that house. Yep, he's in that house upstairs. It's like, okay, cool.
And typical male just blows you off because she's a woman and she's a rookie. Who's alive and who's not, their friend.
And it was nice. Look, the only thing that I will say, about Maker Monroe is she would make a horrible police officer, because if she has to breathe like that every time something happens.
She was very nervous.
I'm like, so loud, so much breathing and clunky shoes. I'm like, oh my God, I know it was the 90s and the shoes were big, but baby, tiptoe. There is a fucking serial killer upstairs. Like, I'm like, babe, breathe.
I really think that was done to show how green she is.
Yeah.
And like how new she is to the field. And again, she's a woman in a man's world. She's nervous. She has to prove herself. She's young and beautiful and a female, and that's it. Like I have a lot to live up to. I have a lot to prove. But man, a serial killer's upstairs and I'm all alone. I'm nervous.
And just her innate calmness throughout this whole thing. We don't really see her lose her cool at all until the end.
Yeah, so I don't know that I could keep that calm ever.
She lets things wash over her, and She absorbs them. She's not a reactive character. She just absorbs everything and it informs her opinion. Now, Blair Underwood, great to see Blair Underwood having a significant part in this movie as well. Like, he's an underrated, very busy actor. Like, but for him to be one of the, like, I wouldn't even call him supporting. He's close to lead. He's in a lot of this movie and dictates a lot of the action.
I'd say he's lead.
He recruits young Harker to a case that spans decades. It's a series of murder-suicides involving families. Now, in each murder, the father murdered the wife and children before taking his own life. And at every crime scene, there is a letter with satanic coding that is signed Longlegs. Now, the handwriting on the letter belongs to none of the victims, and there's no forensic evidence that anyone
what's that
no home invasion or no outside parties were ever part of this. So it's straight up criminal mind. Like, if we're in a case, it feels like a procedural. Like, we go from off-putting weird 1970s man to hot procedural, like hardcore stuff, and I enjoyed it. Like, it's a slow burn at the beginning, definitely a slow burn collecting that information, but it takes me back to movies like Son of Sam, like Zodiac, like those big screen portrayals of famous serial killers where, like, it feels reality based as opposed to being created, like we've pulled the serial killer from our asshole.
This is what I love about elevated horror, because everything about it engulfs you into the movie. It's the music, it's the background, and this film was beautiful. I mean, it's very moody, it's dark, but there's still pops of color in there just to kind of contrast the gloom and the doom that you're feeling, exploring these crime scenes, exploring the scenery of Longlegs, and the music. I have not felt this unsettled by a soundtrack since the Suspiria soundtrack.
Right? Yeah.
I mean,
it's good. It kind of gives that 70s meets 90s vibe. Like, it's a weird baby child, this one. It's yeah.
Well, Osgood Perkins is Anthony Perkins' son. So you got horror royalty.
You got horror royalty, exactly.
He knows what he's doing. And it still kind of cracks me up thinking this is the same guy in Legally Blonde. That was just like, you don't expect this kind of brilliance from a guy playing a dork in law school.
You never know what people are capable of, and that will come back. That will come back a little bit later when we meet another character. But Lee quickly kind of gets to the bottom of the case. She does her profiling and reveals that each crime scene had at least one 9-year-old daughter born on the 14th of the month, and that the murders all occurred within 6 days before or after the birthday itself, which is a lot of facts. Yeah, it's a lot of exposition that we're collecting here, but it's bit by bit, which is nice. Like, you feel like you're part of the investigation. We're going to keep going. So when all of these dates are written out on a Lydia calendar, on a candle, the dates of the murders form an occult symbol of an inverted triangle, with one date missing to complete the shape. The satanic nature of this movie is getting more and more and more exploration, and it's deep in there. Like, you can go down quite a dark hole if you join Longlegs TikTok, and
No.
And go really go there. He's done. He's someone that might not be Osgood himself, but someone on this team has gone there with this and really examined the Satanic Bible and symbolism, all that kind of stuff to make it fit so well.
So the Bible passages in this movie were from King James, I think is what it is.
Yeah.
And then there was a poem, Satan Says, by Sharon Olds in his letters. And it's about a girl who's trapped in a box who makes a deal with Satan. If she blasphemes her family, he'll let her out. But if you know anything about Satan, he's not exactly the most truthful person. So she does what he tells her to do, and he still locks her in the box. It's creepy. It's very deliberate, is what it is.
And just to put the weird juxtaposition out there, I'm not seeing a huge outcry about the Satanism in this movie. But if you go on TikTok now, and I don't know if it's just my algorithm, it's all about people leaving Deadpool vs. Wolverine because it's being blasphemous.
Well, this movie's not pretending that it's not about Satanism, though, right? It's very much.
It just seems to be.
It's not portraying it in a positive light either.
No, but I think if there is a movie that is out and out about Satanism, that people get their ass hairs in a twist about that, as opposed to Wolverine and Deadpool.
It's so funny.
It's weird.
The collective outrage is just. You can find anything really to be angry about in a movie, and you like the Satanism, yes, is a key factor of this movie, but it's not even the whole thing about it. I mean, it's a driving factor, it's the reason behind it, but it's not the main focus. So I can see why there's not a ton of outrage about it. If anything, I'd say the violence would probably.
I think you have to understand
it's very much
it
not. It's not a movie that's like yay Satanism at all. So it's what's to be angry about. It's something unsettling, and
I think that you have to understand it too. It's one of these movies that you need. Yeah, that's the lack of it, because it was like, oh god, what was it? The Babadook.
Oof, another good one.
I was working in a physical media store when the Babadook came out, and a lot of people were coming and going, it's not scary, I don't understand that. I'm like, well, you're not going to let yourself. It's the same people that can say the Blair Witch Project doesn't have scary moments. If you allow yourself to go to those places, that suspension of disbelief goes a long way. I vividly remember seeing Blair Witch Project in cinemas and not knowing what was happening. You're like, what? That's. I was invested. Do you know what I mean?
I remember
if you let yourself be invested in movies like this, they're gonna resonate with you more. Especially, like, I can't imagine how much the Babadook would resonate with parents.
The funny thing about the Babadook is people are so annoyed by the mother and the kid's relationship, but they don't understand that the message.
That's the whole point of the story. Yeah,
it's about grief. It's not being able to pick yourself back up, and not knowing how to explain this to your child. Not sure how to process it yourself. If you understand going into this movie that this movie is about grief, I think you would go into it with a new lens. And
I think it's also the same with The Witch as well. I've seen a lot of people decry The Witch as not being a horror movie, but I'm like,
how is that not
let yourself go there. Let yourself be in that. That's the whole point of cinema, right? We are supposed to be in there with these characters and go, this was me.
Yeah, but that requires imagination, and unfortunately, a lot of people don't have much imagination.
Okay, and I've said this how many times, and I don't mean to sound like a snob, but the modern horror fan is very lazy. They want instant gratification. They're not willing to take themselves out of themselves for a little bit and put themselves like straight into the movie. Like with The Witch, it doesn't always have to be terrifying. Like you feel tense, you feel disgusted, you feel off, it's off-putting. That are the factors of a key horror movie. You don't always have to be terrified. If you're unsettled, if you are tense,
that's a job done. Yeah.
Yes. Absolutely.
And if you look back at classic, if you look back for comparison, look at Psycho.
Yes.
The amount of people that remember Psycho being a blood-soaked movie tells you how much it got under their skin. That slow burn tension that ratcheted up, left them with incorrect memories, unreliable memories, because they were on such a ride with that. And even to this day, if you are someone that doesn't mind going back and doing your homework, sit by yourself, turn off all the lights, and watch a movie like Psycho.
Mm-hmm.
And let yourself experience Psycho. Let yourself experience the original Haunting. Let yourself go to these places.
Don't do the Anne Heche Psycho.
Even the Exorcist. Like, be an adult, be a grown up, and watch The Exorcist by yourself at nighttime, and tell me that is not an intense experience.
I just want people to stop expecting gore and blood and like absolute terror. Give yourself a chance to feel other emotions in a horror film. And
Even
that's why a lot of people don't
even the original Halloween. Like if we're talking tentpole major franchise horror, watch Halloween by yourself.
Halloween is a slow burn. There's not a lot of actual gore or there's violence, but it's not all. It's not explicit.
No,
it's that tension.
Not blood everywhere.
Building. Yeah.
I mean,
the original Friday the 13th, Scream, like these are all movies that didn't have blood and gore, etc., in their first installments because they relied on making.
Scream did. Drew Barrymore got fucked up.
Yeah, but I think it was expected. There's a difference there because it was the 90s and it still had to play to its stereotypes because it was satirical in nature.
I mean,
maybe
the implication that something horrific is happening can be scary enough. That was a lot of talk to me. Like there was the implication of what was happening that made you scared, that made you unsettled. Sometimes you don't have to see it. You can just hear it. They can put that thought in your head and you can imagine it yourself. Like, oh my God, something really bad is happening. And you don't have to see it on screen.
And something really bad is about to happen to Paul Lee Harker in this next set. This is the first section I went, get away from me. While she's decoding alone, as you do. Alone in your house, in the darkness, in the woods, and you start to hear weird, wonderful things.
With the curtains all drawn and big windows so you can see right into the house.
Tell everyone to watch movies this way?
Yeah, but that's what makes it effective, Luke. Don't you do that? Like, before you had a child that could jump out of somewhere and scare the shit out of you.
When I could actually watch movies without having to,
I think sometimes that's some of the best thing to do is just turn the lights out and go, I'm going to put myself in a situation that, amps up my fear factor. But Lee is visited by a mysterious stranger. The shot of her outside as someone walks through her house that's the stuff of nightmares, right?
That's me turning around and running the other way if I saw someone walking around my house that's not supposed to be there. Like, hope you get what you need. I'm going this way.
That's intense. Like, and she just goes straight in and she's like, yeah, girl, I'm coming. Okay.
Cocks the gun.
Cocks the gun and goes. It's like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Even armed, I'm not going in.
Mysterious figure leaves behind a 9th birthday card with a message to Lee. Lee herself. So she gets biblical, as you do, as you do, and we figure out that the message states that if she reveals to anyone how she figured out the code, Longlegs will kill her mother. Now, we have to talk about her because, for me, the revelation of this movie, I knew that Nicolas Cage was going to be good. I knew that Michael Monroe would carry her role well. Alicia Witt.
I mean, so if everyone remembers her from Urban Legends,
I was just about to say that is the feisty redhead in Urban Legends, and Sybil? I did not get that right away.
She was Sybil's daughter in Sybil, the sitcom. Like, so she
blew me away.
And I know that she can act. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I know that she can act, but her role in this movie, I didn't even know she was in the movie. That's how much I kind of stayed away till I saw her name in the opening credits. I went, oh fuck, I love Alicia Witt.
You know who else had a small part in this, but
we'll talk about her in a minute when I get a reveal.
Yep.
Her portrayal of Ruth Harker.
So it's the main character.
So many layers. So Alicia plays Lee's mother generationally as well, which was cool. Like so cool. She is a hoarder. She is obviously mentally not 100% well. And just we can tell from the phone interaction before we even see her and spend time with her as a character, that strained relationship is noticeable over the phone. Like, that's good acting. I guess I have to ask
you both. When she's asking Lee every time they're on the phone, did you remember to say your prayers? Like, that's significant now looking back on it.
Of course it is, and that's something you don't realize until
right away. You just think she's a little weird. But, and it made me feel kind of awkward. Like, why are you asking this woman that? And I guess I didn't realize how religious Lee was until seeing her like just grab a Bible and just kind of go for it. Because does everyone have a Bible sitting around?
No, sadly not. You might need to after this
if you
movie.
Do, Luke. I'm just like saying it's not a very common thing to have a big Bible. Just
I don't
readily available.
I don't think I've got one in the house. So
that was another thing.
Catholic.
Okay. Now take a deep breath because this is where things get very Twin Peaks very quickly, and then we get back into the movie. It's like we take this big detour. So after the revelation that Lee's mother is in danger, Carter and Lee, so Blair Underwood's character, Carter and Lee, go to one of the former crime scenes and discover a doll, as if things weren't creepy enough.
Nothing is creepier than these dolls. Fuck that.
Oh,
right.
No, these dolls are creepy as hell, and the marketing
these are like
with
those
the
dolls that those like weird people pretend to marry and shit.
And as Katie was just saying, it makes once you've seen the movie, the marketing makes sense now. Like you understand what these veiled figures are, what like the eye, like I get it now.
So there is a very prominent marketing still of one of these dolls, and you don't know that it's doll.
Yeah.
It's just dark. It's a dark figure with a veil over it,
and eyes.
If you pop, but you don't see the eyes because it's a still and it's part of an actual trailer, so you don't get to see the eyes. But if you pause it at just the right moment in the trailer, you see these yellow eyes just standing out. And, the first time I was actually able to pause it to see them, oof! It's so creepy. It's so good. So good.
To make it creepier, inside the head of these dolls, there is a strange metal orb that emits high energy readings despite apparently being empty. This is where things get wiki woo woo, because Carter's like
where
very
I was
much
getting a bit confused, but yeah.
You got to really stick. I admit this is where I started to go a little bit because it had been a long day. I was like, come on, fight for it. You know it's going to get exciting. You know. I was like, I think I may have nodded off slightly.
Well,
at some, I was
admittedly, this detail
slows it down a lot. It's
yes.
but
this
it's
is
so
the weaker
important
part of the film. It's important, but it is the weaker part of the film.
Yeah.
And a very strong film.
Yes. So this is where Lee again goes with her gut and comes up with a theory that each family would have received one of these dolls from Longlegs. And the orbs have some kind of possessive energy, I guess we'll call it, that can influence
Satanic
the people
energy.
around them. Yeah, but it will influence them. It will lead them to become under the influence of Satan or whoever we are doing. Yeah.
Yep.
This is where we meet, and there's always in these movies. There's always one.
Mm-hmm.
A survivor. Mysterious survivor. Again, somebody I had no idea was in this fucking movie. But who, in their tiny time in this movie, like, blows it out of the park. Good. Now, Miss Kiernan Shipka, for people that don't know, started her, well, I guess her first prominent role was in Mad Men, but more recently, she is known as Sabrina Spellman from The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, a criminally underrated
Agreed.
Netflix show, and a show that was cancelled before its time.
Mm-hmm.
A brilliant show. Something that I would like to come back.
Starting the petition to someone else pick it up, even though we've lost Ambrose.
Yes, we've lost Ambrose. But you know, it was and that cast in itself were amazing too. It's just
mm-hmm.
But Kiernan Shipka is giving us big. This is spacek energy.
Mm-hmm.
Part.
She was terrifying.
Yeah. Actually, do you know who she reminds me of? And Luke, you'll appreciate this. She had shades of Anne Heche from I Know What You Did Last Summer. It was the accent and that kind of disconnected look.
That unsettling kind of character that's like just you know that there's something fucked with them. Yeah.
She kind of reminded me a little bit of and this may be kind of a niche movie. Maybe people remember it, maybe they don't. Do you remember that movie In Dreams with Annette Bening and Robert Downey Jr.?
Robert Downey Jr., yeah.
She very Annette Bening vibes in that movie.
So many apples.
So many apples.
So many apples. I love that part of Robert Downey Jr.'s career where he was like coming back and he would just do random movies. It's like,
since we're talking about criminally underrated, that film right there. There we go.
In Dreams. Yep. In Dreams. That was very good. So Lee spends some time with our survivor, but it's also revealed that there was a visitor by the name of Lee Harker who had come to the institution. So the noose is tightening. Not only has Longlegs already threatened Lee's mother, he's one step ahead and is kind of getting like a shark in the water, circling. And this is where Carter starts to suggest / has decided that there is a connection because of the mutual knowledge between Longlegs of Harker and Harker of Longlegs.
Mm-hmm.
And the big turning point is the discovery that Ruth, Harker's mother, had filed a police report on Lee's 9th birthday of an intruder approaching her, which is what we saw at the beginning of the film.
She was the little girl.
Yes.
You know, as soon as she went home and you see Lee in the kitchen, and I'm just seeing all the medication and the fact that her mom saved her baby teeth, I'm like, there's something going on here.
Something is not right, as Miss Clavel says in Madeline. But all throughout this, we're getting these little vignettes of Longlegs as well. So we see him in different places and, having moments.
Cuckoo.
I'm gonna say the girl behind the counter was amazing.
She's not having that.
She was not having it. She got
weirdo's back again.
She got big customer service energy. That girl. I was like, that is exactly. She reminded me of Gabby Hoffman, actually.
Yes.
I was like, that's.
And that's why she probably survived, because she wasn't
why,
taking
she's like,
bullshit.
fuck off, dude. I'm not.
No, thank
how
you.
old? Yeah. How old are you?
Like, little angel. Like, ooh.
Like, no, we'll get back again. Yeah, Nick's giving it to, and they don't explicitly give him the backstory. Like, the backstory is pieced together through post watching. That he was this former music star that, sold his soul to the devil.
Mm-hmm.
Or so he believes. And it explains a lot. Nicolas Cage said he wanted to base his appearance on that of aging rock and rollers that
Marilyn Manson.
That have had not great surgery over time after time after time, and tried to correct it so much that it's destroyed their face.
If you notice, over his mirror, he's got a big old picture of Lou Reed. And yeah, I would say Lou Reed is a bit off-putting. I love Lou Reed, but I'm just saying it's like, and some of the music is off-putting. Venus and Furs is one thing I think of when I first heard that. It's like, oh, that's kind of, it's a little strange. But it was so good. And I would say that the soul to soul as a musician, he's like an old glam rocker that is just aged horribly. And the selling your soul thing is absolutely legit.
Totally. And yeah, just the vibe. It's really interesting to see the reaction and to start to understand the character building behind it. I feel like the physical media release of this will come up with a lot of backstory. I can only imagine what the behind the scenes will be like if they've gone as far as filming all that, which I hope they have, because the movie deserves it. But we are now home at the big white house that we saw at the beginning of the movie. We are home with Ruth and Lee, and the palpable tension between mother and daughter.
So her mum was never a hoarder before. Obviously, something happened, right?
There is a traumatic event.
Anxiety caused some of hoarding. Yeah.
Yes. So she goes to visit Mummy, and she denies any memory of Lee's 9th birthday, but hints to her that she should go up to her room and look through her belongings to see if it'll help her remember. So she finds a chest which has a stack of Polaroids
that
with
we
the
all
face,
have in our house.
Yes, with the face of Longlegs. So this is confirmation for everyone that didn't expect it, and I kind of did from the beginning of the movie that she was the girl from the beginning of the movie. But this is your.
No, because at first I thought that girl was dead. And then I realized, oh no,
really?
it's her. But yeah,
I thought it was her all along.
I did not think it was her all along. Like Luke, I thought she was dead. I thought it was one of the victims.
Yeah, I thought it was like one of the first victims.
As soon as we got into the house, I thought the mom's involved somehow.
Yeah, she's giving off big Patsy Ramsey energy, right?
She's sketchy. She's keeping a secret. That she's doing something. She is involved somehow, but I can't figure out how.
Mom's not okay, though.
Mom's very not okay. It's Stockholm syndrome, is what it is.
And this photo leads to his arrest. So she's able to, because let's face it, if you see that guy, you know that you've seen that guy.
Yeah. Well, there's not a lot of people walking around like him, except for Marilyn Manson.
Not Marilyn Manson doesn't even look this messed up.
No.
Someone I talked to who saw this movie too. We were trying to decide if it's like bad makeup, like bad glam rock makeup, or if it's because he's a doll maker, and it's just.
Well, what I heard was that because he of his botched surgeries, the white makeup was trying to put a blank canvas back on him, like the dolls.
So
he was trying to get rid of the ugliness of the past and the sins that he'd committed against himself.
Oh, I like
that. By whitening it out and
I like
cleansing it almost.
Was that down one of your TikTok rabbit holes?
It was. I went down some big ones. I went down some big ones, baby doll.
So my TikTok was solidly Longlegs for the month.
I had to start skipping because it was getting a bit much. Like, I was like, okay, it's too much. We're here. We're at that point. It's
still Longlegs, but now it's cat videos with Nick Cage singing in the background. But
right, let me know. Now this has to be again, and this is why we get the inevitable Silence of the Lambs contribution / comparison. This interrogation scene.
Well, look at that.
I know. Look at the way that it's duality, shot for shot. Beautiful, and things you don't realize. And this is the heartbeat scene. This is Michael Monroe not seeing Nicolas Cage in character until this scene, and the cat and mouse of it all is brilliant. Like, it will go down. It will be up there with the Silence of the Lambs scenes, between
Clarice
and again,
Hannibal.
Nick Cage is so underrated. I mean, this man is a character actor in the best way possible. He fully commits to it. And what a commitment.
He made me very unsettled, and this scene was unsettling. I'm like, oh, they've got him. It shouldn't be scary anymore. He was creepy.
Well, there was still doubt because the reason why she agrees to meet with him is that she thinks that there's someone else helping him. How can these crime scenes be so untouched?
Mm-hmm.
And this is more than the work of one man across nearly 20, 30 years. Like, this has happened. It was a cold case before she got on it, and it's the 90s. Her encounter was in the 70s. So he's been doing this for decades. And for one person to be able to do that is excessive. And it all comes down to this missing date that will, close the triangle, that will reveal the truth.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the reason why Harker puts herself out there and allows herself to be, I guess, bait.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
I think that would be a good.
Yeah.
Description.
So Longlegs tells her that he serves the man downstairs and suggests that Lee should speak to her mother about her involvement in the crimes before a
one of them.
I don't know how to explain it. A ominously calm Hail Satan.
Yeah, that was just
and smashing his own face into.
Can we all do it together?
Desk
no.
Until he killed himself.
No.
Like the mental, there's an urban legend. I don't know. This might be an Australian thing. This, I don't know. The viewers can tell us. There's an urban legend about HSC time, so like school SAT time for the people in the States, that there was a kid who went to an exam that wasn't prepared for it, couldn't deal with it, stuck a pencil up his nose, and headbutted the desk and killed himself.
Oof.
Like,
I mean,
yeah, and that's a story that I've heard for years and years and years, and but to actually see someone have the commitment to smash their face so hard and repeated, like, it's otherworldly. And I think that this is where it flies. This is big Twin Peaks territory where people do things that aren't physically explainable with any kind of logic. And it's so, like, it made everyone in this theater just, like, I heard some audible, like, inhales when this was happening, and that's just the fact that he managed to kill himself doing it. Like, yeah. And again, Lee has to see this, you know? It's like his weird revenge on her that she managed to get away, or like you've seen my face once, now you're gonna see this face for the rest of your life.
Mm-hmm.
It's chilling. It's really chilling stuff. I'm like, oh god. And you think, okay, maybe that's the end.
Nah.
Oh no, we're about to go full Hereditary now, because when you think everything's sorted out and you're all good, we're gonna swerve, take this left, and tumble off the bridge into insanity. Like, so Harker goes home again.
Yeah. Get her friend drives her.
Well,
one
not
of
her friend,
colleagues.
Agent Browning, who has been like kind of questioning her the entire time. She's suspect on her, where Carter hasn't been. He has welcomed her into, like, he's welcomed her into his home. He's trying to take her under his wing and I guess give her some humanity or some kind of grip on reality and introduce her to his daughter and his wife. I kind of smelt that coming as soon as we saw a daughter and a wife. I'm like, oh, it's not going to end well for you.
And then mentioning the birthday party.
Oh, it's her birthday party. You're like, oh shit, that's not good for you, buddy.
No.
But while Harker is
she? 9.
While Harker is looking for Mum and investigating the house, Lee sees Ruth in a nun's outfit, mind you. Shotgunning poor Agent Browning to the fucking head. Like, out of nowhere. This is like, I'm like, oh shit. We've entered cray-cray territory.
Mm-hmm.
And then she rounds the corner to see Ruth pulling a gun on a child. But it isn't a child. It's a doll that looks like young Lee Harker.
Now, can you explain this bit to me? So she shoots the doll.
She shoots the doll, and Lee becomes unconscious.
Yes. Can you explain to me? So obviously there is some kind of psychic energy from these dolls that's being emitted. So
when she shoots the doll,
her connection, like what was the?
Yes, it essentially kind of sets Lee free.
Yes,
and Lee can remember everything now. And
okay,
and Ruth also after this scene explains.
Yeah, we get big exposition. We get big exposition after this.
Yeah,
but it basically takes the blinders off her.
Yeah,
because we discover that anyone that's had this doll, as we said, gets under the influence of the doll. The children become catatonic. They don't really see what's happening because it makes them more pliable to obviously Longlegs and the man downstairs to do what they need to do, and it works its magic on the parents. So we get big exposition in the flashback with Ruth revealing that she's been Longlegs' accomplice ever since he encountered Lee. We get a big flashback of Alicia Witt, obviously, 20 years earlier. Longlegs returns to take Lee. He's going to take her. But Ruth is forced to make a choice. Let her daughter be murdered as part of the ritual, or to do his bidding, and it would spare her.
Now, did you see in the bedroom, Lee in the bedroom, like listening to all this happening, and there's something lurking behind her, very in the shadows?
Yeah. I just... Ugh.
Well, it's revealed that there's like 14, I should say, 14 more instances of that where the devil's just kind of lurking in the background in the shadows. And if you're not,
I am the devil. It's very much Haunting of Hill House, and it's hidden ghosts. You know, some of them are very obvious, and some of them are not.
So I need to go see this again so I can find out.
Exactly. Now that I found that out, now that the devil is, lurking in the whole thing,
I need to find them.
Giving it physicality, I don't know. The devil is always this kind of amorphous, weird presence that is around, but saying and showing it in the background kind of gives it that next level. Ooh.
Yeah, ooh. And I mean, you don't see its face; you just see a huge, lurking, dark shadow, and that to me is more unnerving than if they made this very graphic, scary Satan.
Right. So Lee's birthday is the missing date on the triangle. For those of us playing the game.
Okay.
Yes?
Yeah.
And Longlegs has lived in the basement of Lee's house ever since her attack, behind a locked door. That is so fucking creepy.
Oh, I hate that.
And she has obviously... It's obviously a comment on PTSD and, that kind of thing, but knowing that she even had the right to that choice taken away from her by magic is so much creepier. She could have compartmentalized it and, disassociated and whatever, but she wasn't even given that choice because she became an unwitting part of everything that has happened since her attempted attack is essentially because of her and the choice that her mother made. It's intense, man. So we see Longlegs, infusing the doll with his satanic magic, and Ruth would pose as a nun delivering gifts from a church. The family had won a prize from the church, which in this day and age seems a bit like whatever, but we have to remember that this was happening in the 70s, the 80s,
90s.
where churches were more, people were more into their church and living.
But you got to understand, in a rural area, it may not catch up as quickly. So it's not unfeasible that this rural area is maybe it may be just backdated, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, no, I understand. There's there's even some places still in Australia, I think, are still in the 80s.
Right, and that's kind of the implication here, is that it's a small rural town, and it's not unheard of for them to be a little behind.
Yeah. So we get the explanation. The doll is kind of the patient zero of the whole thing. The doll is introduced into the environment. It essentially comatoses the kid and induces the murderous nature, of the father.
But it's almost like it's a play that plays out too,
it mostly does.
Yeah.
And it's it was fate, because Lee's father isn't in the picture. Mm-hmm. She was always an anomaly in the order of things, because what we know of serial killers, they have a pattern, they keep that pattern. Mm-hmm. Why would he for once go after a single parent child?
Mm-hmm. Because they're more susceptible to male influence.
Exactly. There was no male influence to guide that murder, so it was already going to be a departure of his pattern. So it's weird. And the fact that Lee's doll survived and was kept as part of her hoarding, Ruth's hoarding, was the thing that was blocking her memory, but also allowing her to be guided from the satanic side of it. So it was having influence. Now she wakes up in the basement, because you do after these things, and the phone rings with a voice saying, "You're late for Ruby's party." Oh, this is where all the all the pieces come together, and she realizes that Ruby Carter, the daughter of her boss, her senior, her caretaker, is in danger. Their whole family is essentially fucked.
And
this is another intense one, right?
This is another instance where it's showing you without showing you, because you know what's about to happen with the Carters and or the Carter family or whatever their last name is. Yeah. And when you don't see it, but you're hearing like the action just go through, it's still just as unsettling. Like, like they're going in the kitchen to argue and he's gonna
fucking stab her to death. Yeah. Like we see in the flashbacks of people getting hatcheted to death and all that kind of stuff. And just the causality and the fatalistic nature of that day being the final date in Longlegs' triangle, and it never would have happened if Harker wasn't involved with that family.
Mm-hmm.
And she's got this kind of tragic heroine thing going where, like your Sydney Prescotts, like all of the successful final girls, that being known or even just being in their circle puts you in immediate danger.
Well,
so Carter murders his wife, and Lee has to shoot and kill Carter to protect Ruby.
See, and this is what I don't understand about this ending. She doesn't.
Yeah. I've got questions too, and I'm hoping you guys can answer them.
She doesn't take out the doll. She leaves that doll intact.
Okay, here's what I'm thinking. I will get there. But Ruth arrives, brandishing a dagger, as you do. Crazy nun mum can't be left.
But see, this is what I don't understand. Why is Ruth still, Longlegs is dead? What was her motivation to continue to
protect her child? To protect her child.
Because what was going to happen to her if this didn't go through?
Well, this put her in hell. This put her in, This, because of what she had done and what had been done in her name, she's now as guilty. Ruth was trying to absolve her of sin, but by absolving her of sin, she's actually put the blood on her hands. That's the whole duality of the situation.
And you got to remember Ruth. I'm looking at Luke and thinking Ruth. So Ruth is so traumatized by her experiences with Longlegs, and she's got Stockholm syndrome. She doesn't know up from down, left from right from wrong anymore. She's in it. That's it. She is a shell of her former self.
So Ruth is like the doll, right?
Mm-hmm.
All that's left inside her is evil.
Yep.
So Harker is forced to kill her own mother. And is it fate? Is it a coincidence that when Lee goes to shoot the doll, her gun is out of ammunition? Because this doll being full and present and intact,
is history going to repeat now? Is she going to look after this little girl? And
this is the thing. It allows that child to not remember what's happened to her parents.
Aha! There we go.
But it also starts the cycle all over again.
I'll say if they're leaving it intact, I mean, I understand that side of it now.
I don't think it was a choice though. If we get it, her gun runs out of ammunition. Her gun fails.
But she could have taken it out other ways, though.
Is that something else acting? It'd be interesting to see, look behind what's happening in that scene to see, is there something that is preventing her from ending this completely?
I think this is one of those films that would be it needs a commentary. We can sit and listen to the director and there's so much. I guess you can interpret it in a lot of ways, but it'd be nice to hear their.
But even the way that the movie ends, she tells Ruby they need to leave, but they stay there staring at the doll. It they're caught in the cycle. Like the whole thing is they're gonna fuck and they're gonna fuck. And as we get a Hail Satan and a cut to credits that, you know, roll in reverse. That is so
yeah, that was a bit much.
That was again, usually at the end of the movie something will happen, but there was complete silence in my cinema as those credits rolled, and everyone kind of was like,
yuck.
What? Like, what just happened to me in that last nearly 2 hours? It's like, I can't. And, you know, doing the research and reading up on it has really given me more thought. This is a movie that you're going to have to see again. Like,
yes,
I don't
that's
think...
that was going to be as part of my little, what are we reviewing this one out of? Like Exploding
Doll
Heads?
Let's do Exploding Doll Heads. Luke, we'll let you go first. Exploding Doll Heads.
Look, I think after a rewatch, I will be able to score this higher. But as of now, I'm a very confused little doll myself. So I will give it, right now, 3.5 Exploding Doll Heads out of 5, because I just have a lot of questions, and I felt confused in the film. Like, I need to see it again to absorb it all, because while I watched it this first time, I don't think I gave it all my focus either. And it's one of those films you can't have any kind of distraction. You really need to focus. So for now, a 3.5.
I think you're right there too. It's a movie that you have to watch. Like, you can't. This isn't a whack it on in the background kind of movie.
Nope.
You got it demands your attention to fully understand it. So I think that that's very well put. Katie?
Okay, we all knew I was hyped about this movie. I had been pushing it. Longlegs propaganda for the past however many months. Like, this was my film. I was ready for it. I came out of that film excited about it, hyped up. Even as strong as it is, there are some flaws. I felt like the last chapter of the movie was very rushed, and I felt like the pacing was so good for the rest of the film. And then this one, they just kind of said, oh shit, we're running out of time. We got to really pump this out. The last chapter, admittedly, is the weakest. Even then, it's got a vision. It's got atmosphere. It's very tense. The casting is beautiful. Even the supporting cameos, amazing. This was so well done. It's 4 exploding heads out of 5 for me. And I will be buying this.
Yeah, I'm actually going to go with Louis. I'm going to give it 4.5. I think the half off is for just that lull. I think I fell asleep. I'm going to be honest with you.
And I want to say that too. Some of my score is probably lower, but that's on me. I don't think it's on the film.
I had seen this film at like the end of a very, very busy, or in the middle of a very, very busy week, and I was fighting like Teddy Tides in the cinema, going, "You can do it, you can do it." And then I've obviously missed a little bit, but having put the pieces together myself, and with all the reading and the research post, I think this is, as I said at the beginning, this is going to be one of those movies that is a pivot point in horror. Hopefully, that we will see more movies like this, and that we can, I guess, diversify what's scary, what's deemed as scary. Because I said it before. I said it to one of my friends. It's a pity that the Academy doesn't recognize horror and horror performances, because this movie should be nominated. It should be nominated, and Nicolas Cage, Micah Monroe, and Alicia should all receive nominations for their parts in this movie. They are,
and even like the cinematography in this film is amazing too. Like, it should be nominated. Like,
it's up there with Hereditary for
and Toni Collette being robbed.
For Toni Collette's performance, but it was like a whole movie of Toni Collette performances. But I hope that people will keep discovering this movie, and I know that that's silly to say, given how well it's done at the box office. But I hope that they discover it without knowing too much about it, because it's kind of one of those things that you have to do for yourself. It's a ride you have to go on to experience.
I kind of want to just double back to because Katie, you said you felt like the final act was its weakest part. See, I think that it had some really powerful moments. So that scene of Alicia Witt blowing away her colleague, and then coming around the car. So obviously, and it's shot from inside the house. So obviously this poor bitch in the car ain't properly dead yet when she comes around and finishes her off. And it was one of those really creepy, Wolf Creek kind of moments. It was just awful to see. But
look, that's saying something, that if these powerful scenes is the weakest part, that's still a very strong film. I just felt like the reveal was rushed. I felt like they should have revealed this slowly throughout the movie instead of going, bam, here you go.
Yeah, and I think that they were too busy with the mythos of Longlegs to go to they wanted Nick Cage to be the conversation of this movie.
And he very much was.
And he very much is. But it shortchanges the story. It shortchanges the story a little bit because, she, it's kind of like when you get a big A-list star in a role and you can only see that. It's like having The Rock in something. Let's put it this way. They've hyped up Nicolas Cage, the involvement of Nicolas Cage in this movie and his appearance and his performance so much that it just kind of shortchanges the end of the story.
I get you. This was not a Nicolas Cage movie. This movie was very complex and layered, but they tried to make it a Nicolas Cage flick, and it's not.
That's cool.
It's a lot.
Cool.
I don't agree with that, because I think this is very much a Nick Cage movie. I think this is his movie.
But I don't think it was just his.
No.
They focused on him for, as I said, in detriment to the story.
Right. I mean, the focus is Nick Cage. The focus is Longlegs. However, it should have been sprinkled in, maybe.
Yeah, there should have been suggestion that Longlegs isn't the ultimate big bad, because it's like a video game.
Yeah.
You think he's the final big bad, but there's this other thing that we never actually encounter that is actually the driving force behind everything.
And we're so engulfed with an unhinged Nick Cage, which we should be, by the way, because it was beautiful.
Yeah, it's not taking anything away from him. It's not taking anything away from him or his performance, but I think they wanted to. It takes away from
yes.
Just the story in general, the resolution of the story is taken away because they want to spend more time with Nick Cage. So a director's cut.
Do you think there's? I was going to say, do you think there's a director's cut?
Oh, definitely.
There will be.
I really hope so, because that was and I'm sure that we'll talk about this in the way, but that was my big beef with Maxine. So
yeah. we have addressed that with Maxine, but we survived. We went through the process that was Longlegs, ladies and gentlemen. So we hope that you survived as well. We hope that you have some thoughts. We've been talking a long time on this movie. This is one of the longer reviews that we've done, but I think it deserves that kind of discussion because there's so much going on. The interesting thing is, I'm seeing, and we discussed this with Maxine, there's already a movie that's kind of vying for this attention again with Cuckoo, which is also by Neon.
So good.
It's going to be a different beast completely, but the marketing is on par. We're getting that creepy factor in slowly and surely. If you haven't checked out the trailer for Cuckoo, it's coming very soon, I think. I think it's in the next couple of months as well. So if you enjoyed Longlegs, and it might not be a movie that everyone enjoys. If you like a out-and-out slasher, you're probably not going to like this movie. If you like an out-and-out, gore-filled, torture porn kind of Saw moment, it's probably not the film for you. But it's refreshing for a film like this to get the attention that it's gotten the film was made. We'll do reception a little bit because we haven't really talked about it. The film was made for just under $10 million, I think it was.
Made it back opening weekend.
Oh, in spades. At the moment, the box office is sitting at $66.8 million for an independent film, essentially. It made $10 million in its first day.
Mm-hmm.
In its first day. Like, it's sitting at 86% at Rotten Tomatoes. So I think it deserves higher.
I think it does too. I think a lot of the people that don't like it are not giving it the chance. I think they just kind of want something instantly scary, and that's
but this is
they're not going to get it from this film.
Yeah, this is us imploring you to have a mind of your own. As I always say with everything, don't listen to reviews. I stopped listening to reviews of movies.
But you want people to listen to
ironic. But like, week of release, like, oh, this is shocking. I want to go and make my own decision.
No, let us get you hyped about it. Let us make you decide, do I really want to see this or not? But don't take our reviews to heart.
People could disagree with us completely, and I applaud that, and I would love the conversation around it. But don't believe what people say. Make up your own mind. It's like when someone gives a Marvel movie a shitty score because it just happens to have a female lead and it was directed by a female. And Make up your own mind. Don't get distracted by the noise of the internet because you're going to miss out on good shit. But good shit. And this is good shit. So don't miss out on it. Now, I don't know where we're headed next. Or do we?
Do we? Help us out here, Steve.
Are you feeling...
Where are we heading?
Sleepy? Or will you never sleep again?
Mm-hmm.
Who can say? We might have to take a little trip down the street very, very soon. But until then, there is more to come. There is always something cracking in the uncensored horror world and in the uncensored radio world. But thank you for joining us today. The lovely Katie, luscious and almost nude Luke. And until next time, let me in now,
and it will be nice. Make me go now, and I'll have to come back. Not once,
not twice,
but as many times as I like.
Yeah, we're weird, but you love it. So tune in next time, and we will see you. Stay spooky, and just stay away from satanic dolls.
Yeah.
Bye.